Hi guys, it's Holly here at Faces. Welcome back to the Face It podcast. Today I'm here with Samir from Symn Clinic. Samir, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I know we've got quite a few interesting topics to discuss this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. So, do you want to just give us a bit of background into how you got into the aesthetic side of things? Because obviously your background is in surgery and obviously medicine. So do you want to just give us a little bit of an overview of how you got into the industry and how you built your business to where it is today?
Okay. So I graduated in 2005 and did my housemanship down in London, and then specialized in surgery, or began the process to become a surgeon. But pretty quickly, I realized that surgery or medicine wasn't for me. So I carried on doing it, but I always had not an exit plan, but things on the side. Excuse me. And one of them was a software system. So I've always enjoyed, I hate IT, but I've always enjoyed how we can utilize IT or technology to make patients' lives easier, as well as doctors and nurses. And then just coincidentally, I had a friend of mine who had an aesthetic business and she used Faces, and just randomly she said, "Oh, are you on Faces?" I'm like, "What is Faces? What's going on?" So she spent a few minutes speaking to me about it, and then I joined, and step by step, I realized it was, Faces is more than LinkedIn, it's more than Facebook, it's more than any other social platform or business platform. Here in the UK, what it allows and what it does, it allows businesses and people in the aesthetic industry to connect with prescribers, to connect with other practitioners, to have a platform for advice. It is that all-in-one platform that if you are going to have an aesthetic business, that you just need to be on. And I can't see anything parallel to it, or I can't see anything next to it. But saying that, it's not all good news. As I said, my background is software systems. We've created apps in the past. And I always email you guys saying, "Guys, come on, this app needs to be updated. This needs to be more." So whilst the platform's amazing, it's also got room to improve, like anything, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regards to Faces and our development, the developments happen through feedback we get from people who are using it. I'm not a practitioner. I don't use it on a day-to-day basis. So, the feedback we need to gain is from those who are using it, whether it be in clinic, for prescriptions, for whatever they are using it for. So that is really, really important to us. And we've got lots of updates coming. I think at the moment there's like an update every couple of weeks, so always make sure that you're up to date. But every bit of feedback that we get is listened to. Do you contact Ben directly when you pass feedback on?
Yeah, well, initially, absolutely. Yeah, I think he rang me once and replied by text messages. Because I know, we had a similar startup, not similar, but we had a startup, and it's where all of a sudden you're the CEO, CFO, designer, UX, you want everyone, the accountant, the clerk. Yeah. So you set up, and to be honest, even Holly from Faces, I thought Holly from Faces there's no Holly. It's just anyone who picks up the phone that day is excuse me, "Hi, I'm Holly."
Yeah, I wear a lot of different hats within Faces. But you've got to be adaptable working in a startup, as you'll know. But it also means I can, on a personal level, I learn all aspects of the industry, of the software, what we need, speak to lots of different people. So yeah, anyway, enough about me. So with regards to Symn Clinic then, so you are obviously focusing on the weight loss side of things. Do you want to just give us a bit of insight into how you steered into that direction and how everything's going at the moment?
So I am the youngest of six, and we have, as a family, my parents' generation, my uncles, we have a horrific family history of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer. We are literally, we tick all those boxes. So from a personal point of view, I've always tried to exercise and eat healthy throughout my life, but other members of my family have struggled, my extended family, really. So Excuse me. So that aspect of it, the health benefits are what really attracted me to initially Ozempic, and then the wider weight loss industry. It's people think, great, I lose weight, I'm slimmer. Some people have a holiday coming up or an event, but what is important is the way Ozempic and just weight loss generally, the way it reduces the risk of having a stroke, a heart attack, cancer. We're talking about the big cancers, bowel cancer, breast cancer, pancreatic, liver. Not that there are small cancers per se, but these are the common ones.
Yeah.
So you can see how weight loss improves people's health, their mental health, their physical health. And in a way, you're paying into like your future as well. So when you're 50, 60, 70 years old, you don't have all those comorbidities, those illnesses. You can actually, go on a long walk with your grandchild. Your knees don't buckle every time you go up the stairs. And ultimately, you live longer. You live longer and have a better quality of life in those latter years. So the whole, people look at the short term, but the holistic, what weight loss allows you to do is just have a better life.
Yeah.
And it's not just, I look good, I feel good, I'm size 10 or I'm a 32 waist. It's actually, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. For example, my dad has been overweight for years, always has been. And as soon as my sister had her first baby, he was like, oh my God, like I need to sort myself out. I want to see this little boy grow up. And it gave him that motivation to really make changes. And I think sometimes it can just take that, either a person arriving into the family or an event happening for that clarity to come for that person, can't it? But
Absolutely.
what sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and what people don't appreciate is obesity. It's not an option in 99% of patients. Every single patient I've had, the fact that they've actually come to me means they're motivated. It means they want to make a change. And in every single case in my clinic, in every single case, they've done things. They've done diets. They've exercised. And I don't want to say they've failed because that's the wrong word, but they've tried other things and it hasn't gotten them to where they need to be. So so when they come, they're highly motivated, highly, they're just keen to change their lives. And that's I think one of the questions earlier was, what motivates. That's the most satisfying part of it, when you see someone get to where they want to be and how it improves their life. And the unseeables, reducing the risk of all those diseases we spoke about, they're the things we don't see and can't really appreciate. But the mental health, their confidence, they're happy spending money on new clothes and a new wardrobe.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing.
Yeah, I think on the aesthetic side of things, that's why a lot of practitioners do aesthetics as well. It's for that, building someone's confidence, changing insecurity that they have, or helping them with it at least, and making people smile. You can't have a bad day at work when you're making people smile and really having an impact on their life. So it's a very rewarding industry to work in. I would say on the flip side, in my opinion, there's a dark side to the weight loss industry, particularly when it comes to Ozempic, Saxenda, those types of products, which, as we know, are prescription. Do you get clients come to you who sort of have come across articles and social media around weight loss pens and are kind of like, oh my God, this is my answer, this is my quick fix? Do you ever experience that with your clients?
Yeah, and not only that. So if we go back a few months, the media was very negative towards. I remember one day Lorraine was on, not that I was watching it, but I think from the football from the night before, and she was very, very harsh, and she was saying things which are incorrect. She was saying, I don't want to single out Lorraine. I'm just saying generally across if you open up the newspapers, it was similar, because people were abusing it per se. Someone who's got a holiday to Ibiza in 3 weeks, just use it. And she was just saying, right, all the weight you lose it by being on the toilet all day. which is not correct. And as soon as you stop the pen, you put all that weight back on. It's not correct. And she was using, oh, it's this TikTok drug, and they use TikTok in a negative connotation. And then, within a week, that same channel had people on saying, this is, in my opinion, Ozempic is the biggest medical breakthrough that we've had for decades. Obesity is the number one enemy for society. Everything is made worse by obesity in terms of people's health, NHS, beds, operations, costs, everything, mental health in some cases. So obesity is our biggest enemy. And people say smoking. Obesity kills more people than smoking. And we can see even the government last week said something else about smoking. Obesity is the enemy, and we've never really had a magic bullet against it. And we don't know, it's still early years, it's still 11 years into Ozempic's life. But so far, and I've prescribed nearly 20,000 pens.
Wow.
So far, this is the best, and this is the biggest and best weapon. This is our nuclear weapon against obesity. Yeah. So I had a lot of people come to me. To be honest, in my own clinic, I haven't had anyone who doesn't really need it. Yeah, we have a strict criteria where your BMI has to be above a certain number, or if you've got comorbidities. So people who come to our clinic have been through that process of trying to lose weight. They haven't succeeded. But I have been asked to prescribe once or twice for people who have BMIs of 26. And you can see, you don't know, but you can straight away exclude them. You don't need it. And because there's a shortage of pens, you especially don't need it, because you're taking that pen away from someone, A, who's diabetic who needs it, or B, who's really obese and needs it. And a lot of people are trying to get rich quick off it. And they do skip steps. There's this, we give patients a long 3-page, it's not long, it takes about 2 minutes to complete, but it's a medical questionnaire to make sure it is safe for you. And telling them what to do, how to do it, and asking them basically to agree to listen to us. So we and that's probably from my medical history. We're drilled with procedure, protocols, things that go wrong.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is Daily Mail, to be honest.
Yeah, that's it. But I think, like you said, it's kind of been abused within the social media. You see people on like Geordie Shore using it. Kim Kardashian has supposedly used it. So I can see why, with society and social media, there are people who don't need it, who are wanting it, because they're like, oh my God, if I can look like Kim Kardashian by using this magical pen, you get it to me. And they don't understand what it's actually for and what the consequences can be if you take this medication. But I think it certainly is a lot down to social media and articles that are out there sort of glamorizing it.
But the platforms also are, I don't want to say they're taking it down, but if you mention, I think on TikTok, we've got a social media account. But you have to be careful, because you can't use their criteria is quite strict. You can't say this is going to make you lose. I don't think you can use the word Ozempic, although there's a hashtag.
Yeah.
They just take things down, and that's probably that's a form of responsibility from the same platforms that allow a lot of other things that should be taken down. So it's quite ironic. The one thing that actually improves your health and makes you better. No, we can't have you doing that. But keep with your hate speech and your silly.
Yeah.
So it's very strange. But like anything in society, people abuse. Whenever there's something, people will find a way to abuse it. The same heroin that's on the streets is the same drug that you give to someone who's dying in a bed. So anything has a risk of being abused.
Yeah. Why, just touching back on what you said around smoking, why do you think there's so much press around smoking being like the big killer, and alcohol, which is what I see a lot as well? Because I was actually surprised when you said that obesity is the biggest killer, because I just don't see anything around that. Why do you think that we're not exposed to that as much?
Well, a couple of reasons. Going back to the obesity bit, this is a really amazing stat. An obese woman who loses 10 kilograms of weight reduces her risk of cancer by 12.7%.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So if you lose 20 kilos, you've cut by over a quarter, you've reduced your risk of breast cancer, bowel cancer, pancreatic by a quarter. That is massive. And through Ozempic, my patients, I say to them, when they hit, for example, 10 kilos, it's like, this is what it means.
Yeah.
This is what it means to this is the stats. It may not be the case in your individual case, but that's how important this is. I think society's, going back to your question, as a society, we have learned to say smoking is bad and say no smoking in cars, no smoking in buildings. And soon there's going to be a ban on smoking outdoors, as I think in New Zealand they've got that ban. And you can actually write on your, if you're renting a flat, you can say no smokers. Now, replace smoking with obesity, you can't do that. There's a mental health aspect to it. These are people, smoking is a choice.
Yeah.
And you can, whereas, obesity is not a choice. So you can't say no obese people. You can't say on your dating profile, well, you can, but I don't think you'll get many people who will, click it. You can't say, I don't want anyone with a BMI above 29 or 30. So I think society, and like anything, prevention is better than cure. So if we, over the last 2 decades, there's been a big thing about in school teaching kids to exercise and be outdoors and be healthy. But when they become adults, and that's when the risks really go up, there needs to be a similar, telling someone, go to the gym. No, what does that mean? Actually, before you go to the gym, get 10,000 steps in or get 5,000 steps in, then get 10,000. Then slowly cut out, instead of having a burger, just eat the patty. So getting people along the journey with you, and that's what Ozempic is. It's a shortcut. So instead of getting from A to B in 2 years, you can get there in 2 months. That's what Ozempic is.
It's actually crazy. Like you said, it's such a breakthrough, isn't it? That this pen can do that to you. That's wild. But also those stats that you just gave, that should be on a billboard, not to obviously advertise a prescription medication, but just even people being aware of that might be enough to make somebody make healthier choices, start moving their body more, and just really think about that, how small changes can impact their life.
A kilogram is 1%, more or less. So you lose 5 kilograms, you've dropped it by just over 5%. It is amazing. You're right. And I don't want to become a conspiracy theorist, but a lot of people benefit from people being obese. Be it the crisps, the chocolates, the fast food shops. So the gyms as well. I'm definitely not a conspiracy theorist, but you're right. This should be front and center, not just with Ozempic. Generally, you lose weight, you improve, you save your life. And this is one which is in 2013, University of Washington in America, they did a study, and they showed that obese women spend the equivalent to 786, I think, pounds a month more than with women with a BMI of 24, 25. That's 786 pounds a month, every month. And it's not just because they spend more on their shopping or they buy more chocolate. That's rubbish. The big thing is, and this is sad, obese women generally across the board tend to have lower paid jobs. Slim women tend to have higher paid jobs. And obese women tend to take more days off sickness. So if you're 0 hours or if you're paid by the day, for example, you get paid less. And this is throughout your lifetime. Obese women tend to retire sooner and they tend to die sooner. So all those things combined make them have a less or a smaller income ability to earn money. In men, it's about 680 odd a month. But that's, you say, I tell my patients, you're saving your life, you're saving your pocket, you're improving your 50s or 60s. It is such a big thing. And, I just wish more people appreciated that information.
Yeah.
And that's probably our job, where we need to tell people, we need to inform that it's all a win-win. Everything about this is a win-win.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell people of those facts and figures because I find that so powerful. Like even someone just hearing that or seeing that somewhere could, like I said before, could really impact their life in a positive way. Just going back to the weight loss clinic then, how has the shortage of the medication impacted your clients, their mental health, but also your business in general?
It's been catastrophic. But like anything, you adapt. When lockdown happened, people were like, oh no, we can't go to work. But then Zoom, like
Yeah.
you and I now.
Yeah.
So we adapted. This time last year, I was having pharmacies calling me to try and get my services. Join us. We'll match that price. We'll better that price. And then over the summer, I'm calling those same pharmacies saying, give me, scraps, anything, and it's tough. And we're in a unique situation. The best man at my brother's wedding, who's a close friend of mine as well, his sister's actually head of sales for Ozempic, world sales. Well, it's one of those things where I've not mentioned that we've got a clinic, and we've tried to keep it all personal and not professional.
Yeah.
And she said everything was great. We were keeping up with demand. And then Elon Musk tweeted Ozempic. And since then, we have just, we're not even close. And it's getting bigger. The demand's getting more and more every month, and we are in trouble. And they sent me an email a few weeks ago, and they said this is not going to get fixed until 2024 at best. And by at best, I mean it's not going to get fixed, but it's going to be less. The supply is going to be a bit more or less demand. So it's been tough. I know a few clinics who've changed their business. They don't do Ozempic anymore. I've got someone who would have 400 clients a month. Consider just go back to not a day job, but another job.
Yeah.
So it's been tough, and it's one of those things. Just if you can wait it out, lean on the aesthetics aspects, lean on other things that can get you through it, because ultimately what you're doing is helping a lot of people, and your services, as well as helping your own pocket, you're making a difference. And the more people out there selling Ozempic or treating people, the better for everyone. You don't want 2 or 3 people monopolizing on everything. So it's been tough. It's been really tough.
Yeah. And what about your clients? Because they'll be aware of the situation. You only need to type in Ozempic into Google and you see articles about the shortage. Have a lot of them experienced sort of a sense of panic around that? How have they been feeling about it?
I've been open with them. So the 0.5 milligram dose has been more readily available. It's the 1 milligram dose that's been an issue. I think only twice I've told them I literally can't do anything right now. I've been very lucky that in the past I'd spend my days in my office just sending emails, making orders, and getting it. For the last few months over the summer, I've been driving around my city. I go to pick up something from a shop. I'll find the pharmacy next door. I'll walk in my car. I've got all my prescriptions. And in a lot of cases, I've been successful. In a lot, I've not been successful. So we've only had 2 clients who have had to pause for a few weeks, not out of choice.
Yeah.
But then we got them a pen and they're back on it. And if clients were lucky enough or are lucky and blessed enough to be able to buy 2 pens at a time, when it's feast or famine. So when there's a bit of a feast, get a couple of pens in, and then when there's a famine, you just have to hold tight. But the shortage it's a disaster, and the reason behind it are quite sad. The companies sell Ozempic to the UK market for a certain price because of how America is and how they work there with their insurance, they can sell it for 3-4 times as expensive in America. So if you're the company, you're like, all right, we'll give Europe the scraps or the UK the scraps just to keep them happy, but we'll redirect all our stock to America, where we're going to make 4 times as much.
Yeah.
And that's why that company from nowhere has become the most valuable company in Norway, out of nowhere. So you understand it. It's sad, but that's the situation. And hopefully the next year, 2024, it will be more readily available.
Yeah. What I find, excuse me, alarming is obviously a lot of aesthetic practitioners offer weight loss clinics, and everyone on these groups are like, oh my God, none of the pharmacies have Ozempic, da da da. What I found is there are so many accounts on like Instagram who are selling like fake Ozempic, just like any, I see fake Botox, I see unlicensed products, but I literally get people following me. It's like Ozempic warehouse, like things like that, and that really concerns me, because I know that some maybe less educated practitioners will be like, oh yeah, cool, I'll just get it off this Instagram page. Have you experienced that yourself?
So I never knew this until, again, the peak of the drought in the summer, where someone sent me a picture and said, can you prescribe this for me? And I looked at it, and it was a vial. So it wasn't a pen, it was a small bottle. And, purely because I've been doing this for a few years, the BNF, the medicines formulary, I know a lot about Ozempic from that. I was like, I've not come across that. So I quickly checked in case there was an update in the last few days, and it wasn't on BNF. And then I looked into it further and spoke to my pharmacy friends, and they said, I say fake. It's not manufactured by the company, by Novo Nordisk. They're getting it from other parts of the world. It's not licensed, and if it's not licensed, it means it has gone through the proper channels and the checks. And what that means is, it's not, in this case, it's not as effective as the real semaglutide, but more importantly and more dangerously, the side effects. And the side effects of Ozempic are serious. Pancreatitis it can be a fatal illness.
Yeah.
So a lot more people are getting sick on it. So I called that colleague back, or the client I worked with, and said, just stop. Don't open those doors. Just stay away from that stuff. It will get better, but the last thing you want is a poorly patient on your books.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, some of the things I see regarding products on Instagram is just wild, that there's all these companies pretending to be selling the right thing, and clearly they're not. And this is people's health that we're talking about here. So yeah, it is wild. But just moving on to the Faces app then, Samir. So obviously you've used Faces for quite some time, and it's clearly had quite a big impact on your career as well, which is really like a nice thing to hear. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how it's impacted you and how it's having a positive effect on your business as well?
My business would not be, I wouldn't be here without Faces, obviously, but in terms of the business itself. So because I knew I didn't want to do surgery or medicine, I've always had 2 or 3 other options, and my main job is something completely different. And this was supposed to be, when I first joined, when my friend Joni got me onto Faces, I thought, if I make about £50 a month, £100, it can pay for my TV subscription, my in a dream world, it can pay for my car. And then pretty quickly it just snowballed, and it was all passive. I wasn't posting every day like you do on Instagram if you want to get followers. I wasn't networking. It was just organic. And if you do a good service, people rate you, and people want to be with, want to work with you. So, and then it just became bigger and bigger. And every week, we're blessed, and it's because of Faces. And then I got introduced to someone who contacted me through Faces about weight loss and Ozempic, and they got me into weight loss and Ozempic, and that's where my business, that was the birth of my business. But the birth or the conception was through Faces. That's a bit less. So
I'm sure Ben would love to hear that. No,
really.
I think that's great, because I think a lot of practitioners obviously use Faces for the consent forms to order their products and things, but I think, just like you touched on previously, it's like a community, isn't it? It's great that practitioners have access not only to prescribers so they can get the products they need for their patients, but also just for general advice, and that prescribers like yourself who are listed on Faces are willing to help and give that advice where necessary.
And patient safety as well. I've had people contact me through Faces who maybe I prescribed something for them 3-4 months ago, and then they've got a patient who's had something, they need medical advice. And I always say, listen, this is not medical advice. You need to go through the proper channels. But I would say, go to your GP. Or I'd say, yeah, you can see how it is. That's something minor. But a lot of the time, it allows that, shall I call the doctor? Shall I go to the GP? I'm like, yes, actually, go to A&E. There was one case where someone was on Ozempic. They hadn't come through my clinic or anything. And she rang me, like, oh, I got a bit of an upset stomach. I was like, okay, a risk is pancreatitis. Go to your doctor now. And she rang me 2 days later from her hospital bed saying pancreatitis. I'm on a morphine infusion or pump. And that's the extreme. This is where you can end up if you don't take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's great that you guys as prescribers who work with Faces are willing to offer that advice. Obviously you can help with the prescription side of things, but even just general advice like that, you potentially save someone's life there. So yeah, no, that's great to hear. Just finally, with regards to regulation, and that coming into the aesthetics industry, and that's, I guess, relative to weight loss clinics as well. What are your thoughts on that? Particularly having worked with a number of different practitioners, both medically trained and non-medically trained.
Just go back one step. When someone tells me they want to go into aesthetics, a lot of people say, you have to post on Instagram, you have to do Facebook, all those things. The number one thing they need to do is get Faces. I've had a few people who've asked me for advice. I was like, number one, Faces, have that app. That's your Bible per se. And then everything else. If you want to succeed, it is literally your best friend in this industry. Regulation is crucial. It's essential for patient safety, for regulations. I actually 10 years ago I was watching Panorama, and a guy I used to play football with twice a week was on Panorama BBC, because they weren't allowed to prescribe give Botox, and they were not prescribing, they were giving it. They were a Botox practitioner, and Rogue, I think the title of it was Rogue Botox something. Panorama. Anyway, the last thing you want to do is end up on TV or the newspapers, or tabloids, because you can make a bit of money, you can do this. But when things go wrong, these are patients' lives, patients' faces, patients' health. So if there's no regulation, it's catastrophic for everyone. And I say that in the micro sense, the patient, the immediate family. But as a society, you can't have something that is so dangerous or potentially dangerous, like medicated or prescription drugs, and have any person just prescribe it or administer it. You can't inject into people's faces if you're not trained. So it is so important, and people are being strict, and it's good, and it has to happen. And I'm all for. I don't like limiting it. So there's one rule that says you have to be a doctor or a nurse.
Yeah,
I understand where that comes from. But there should be a course, maybe a week course for people with safety nets, so you can get people involved in it. And I know the doctors want to say, oh, I want it only for doctors, and the nurses say, just doctors and nurses, because ultimately, their piece of the pie gets bigger.
Yeah.
We need to, it needs to be regulated.
Yeah. No, that I think I agree with everything you've just said. So thank you so much, Samir, for coming on the podcast. I've loved speaking with you. If anyone needs a new prescriber, I will put Samir's connection link below as well, or any general advice. But it's been great speaking. So thank you so much for coming on.
Really, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this.
Good.
Thank
We'll do a
you guys
part
for
two.
going.
Thank you so
Well,
much. So I'll speak to you soon.
best.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.